Morning. We're just waking up and packing up the boat. We're about to cast off from the dock here on Malcom Island. We've been hanging out here for a few days, catching up with friends, doing some work, and we're really excited to get off the dock and go for a day sail.
Our plans to sail up to Gilford Island, and we're going to Echo Bay. The wind is blowing from the northwest this morning. It's about 10 to 15 out there at the moment, but it's meant to be building to 25 to 30 around midday, so we should get a hustle on and get going before it gets blowing. We are pretty safe though, because we tore the tack in the mainsail the other day, so we are only riding on a single reef anyway, so even if it does build up, we should be totally fine because we've already got our reef tied in. You know what they say, reef early, like really early.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do it. Stay on the same track that you're on because we need to get around the entire track.
Well, James and I were just having a little debrief or talk through. Not that things were overly stressful just then, but they certainly felt really stressful. We were going through a narrow passage. There were some relatively strong winds, not something that we haven't done before or that we can't handle, but certainly the energy was different and we were bickering back and forth a little bit and not communicating as well as we would have liked, which is normal and these things happen. But we find that's really good to talk through after those moments and just kind of chat with each other about, how we could maybe better communicate next time and how we would do things differently next time so that things run more smoothly. And so that's part of the learning out here. It's not just, obviously every time you get out here, it's different. You have different weather, different sea states, you've got traffic, you're in a new location, so that's always changing. But then you just have the human side of things where your emotions are different on any given day and you might not have slept as well, or you might be hungry like we are now, or you might not have finished your full coffee. And so you're always just working through and learning in all of these different situations. And I think that's something that James and I do well is, chat about these things after the fact and see how we can improve upon it later.
It can be really difficult when you're already feeling a little bit anxious about stuff, because then everything just seems to like accumulate and feel very overwhelming in the moment, even though that the moment itself is probably not all that overwhelming. And then it's really difficult to rein that in, because then it kind of like spirals and gets away from you pretty quick and just escalates and makes situations worse. So if you got any good tips on how to deal with anxiety at sea, pop them in the comments and let us know. So we just rounded Donegal Head, and the wind is now picking up because we're catching it all down Queen Charlotte Strait and bang onto our beam. So we're already picked up to 5 knots, and I'm sure, judging by the white caps out ahead, we'll pick up a little bit further still. Luckily we've already got that reef tied in though, right? Just in case it gets a little gusty.
Pretty beautiful sailing this morning. Woo, that's a big gust. It looks cold because I'm wearing all my winter clothes, but I just really like to keep warm, but it's really not that cold out today. Yeah, on the beam, it's beautiful. Nice views of the mountains and the Nimkish Valley. So beautiful. Wow, we'll probably be across the strait in an hour. Woo! Wow.
We've been making a pretty good pace this morning. We've done about 16 nautical miles in 3 hours. We've made it across the Strait of... It's not the Strait of Georgia, this is Queen Charlotte Strait. We've made it across Queen Charlotte Strait and we're just entering the Broughtons here. It was blowing pretty good earlier on back there with a pretty good swell, and we were making like 7.5 knots surfing down the backsides of waves. It was pretty fun. But now the wind seems to have really mellowed out. The seas are getting a little bit chiller as we're making our way here into Arrow Passage. Mars is to our left, Mars Island that is, and I'm not quite sure where Mars is in the grand scheme of things at the moment. What's this one to our right? Bondwick Island. Bondwick Island is to our right and Mars Island is to our left, and we are going straight up in the middle in a fairly deep passage known as Arrow Passage. It's about 9 nautical miles left from here up to Echo Bay, and I'm hoping that there's a little bit of wind and we can just keep on puffing along, even if it's only fairly slowly. It's meant to build throughout the day, 25 to 30 knots out in the strait, so I imagine there will be a little bit of wind just gently blowing through here for the rest of the afternoon.
And we've seen a pod of dolphins.
And we've seen a pod of dolphins that literally came up right there. There would be, what, like 20 or 30 of them?
Scared the crap out of us.
Yeah, they just came up and went, I'm like, wow!
Just once though.
Yeah, and then they disappeared. I was hoping they were going to like surf at the front, but they didn't do that, unfortunately. It was really cool to see that many dolphins come up at once. We only ever usually see like 1 or 2 Dow's porpoises, but I guess these were the other ones that I can't remember the name of. We've been going wing on wing for the last little bit, coming down Arrow Passage, and we're just coming through the end of it. It's been a little challenging to keep the wings balanced because we have some wind blowing over each side of the island, so it gets a little shifty periodically. So I hope that we can continue on wing, otherwise we may have to kind of do some driving angles to continue along the passage, but so far it seems to be holding okay. We're doing 4 knots over ground. We have a little bit of the flood current with us, which is probably contributing to the majority of that. But also, you know, there's a lot of canvas up when you're wing on wing, so could be okay. Could be us. Can't give the current all the credit.
Yeah, this is a beautiful little cruise through the Broughton Archipelago. Sun is out. Cruising along at like 4 knots. It doesn't feel like that at all, I guess, in comparison to the 7 knots we were going just like an hour ago with those busy seas. And we're just puffing through the passage here. It's really, really lovely. Arriving at our destination, we dropped our sails and prepared to motor into Echo Bay. Located on the northwest side of Gilford Island, this is an iconic place with a rich history. Settlers named it Echo Bay because, well, sound echoes off the large granite cliff towering over the bay. Originally a Ministry of Forests ranger station back in the 1950s, over the years became a bustling and thriving community of folks who lived near or on the water in float homes and worked primarily in the forestry and fishing industries. In 1984, as many as 200 people lived in this remote community miles from anywhere on the BC coast. Now, only a handful of people remain here all year round.
Comes up pretty quick.
Our cruising guide suggested anchoring at the end of the bay in about 30 feet. As far as we could tell, we were the only folks here. A quiet and peaceful night tucked away in serene Echo Bay.